What's going on? My name is Drew, and today we're going to learn how to draw some vintagey style hands. And to help me to start out with sketching, and then we're going to look at some cool stuff like this to really see how they've drawn like some of the hands and figure out where we're supposed to put shading. So the three things that we're going to think about are pose, the shape, and then the shading, and we're going to go through drawing the free hand or the high five, the open hand position, and then we're going to see how to use that in basically the same shape, this trapezoid shape, in all kinds of different hands. Okay, so we're going through 8 simple steps from that shape all the way to shading and refinement. If you need some erasers or specific paper that can really handle a lot of erasing, I've got that link down for you to check out, as well as the guide. Let's get at it. All right, so here we are with a couple of sketches, and I just wanted to show you that the same kind of basic shape from this trapezoid looking figure can be utilized in every single one of these hand drawing. So we're going to do that a little bit later, but I just wanted you to see before we dive in that this same kind of principle, this same kind of trapezoid principle is used throughout all of the sketches. So blank sheet of paper, you can use computer paper. We have some nicer paper linked down in the description if you need something a little bit tougher. I would also very highly recommend these erasers. They are just amazing, the Pentel. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure which pose you want to use, and we'll in fact even write that as a little guide to make sure we know. We're going to go pose first, shape, and then shade, like I was saying in the beginning. Those are the things we want to keep in mind. So pose wise, we're just going to do the free hand or the high five. Then the shape is going to be the trapezoid. If I go up this way and down and in towards where the wrist comes out, and then the shading is going to be kind of like where you see light hitting inside the areas and around the cuticles, and that's what's going to really create some depth. So we've got the trapezoid here. We're going to have it come inward, so the top point, wherever the index finger is, like I say in the guide, needs to be higher than where the pinky attaches, and it needs to come in at this kind of like warped angle here. So it's not just like straight down, because then you're going to end up with a box, and yeah, it's not going to be quite the same. Here's step one. So we've got just the trapezoid. That's basically where you're going to start almost every single hand poses. Even if it's like this, or even if it's like this, you can still see still a trapezoid type figure. But the second step we're going to do is create a 3D shape out of this. So we're going to create some depth here, just like you probably used to do like back in high school when you figured out you could draw a 3D box. Now I'm making these lines pretty dark so you can see it on the camera, but I would not recommend doing that because we're going to erase all these lines. This one doesn't really matter. You don't need to do depth over here, because the depth is over here where like the gushy part of your hand is, and where the finger and the thumb attach. So a lot of these lines are going to go away. We have the base of the hand ready to go, and we can start shaping out of this. And if you want to, you can even like go ahead and kind of like start figuring out where the wrist will go, a little bend here. The first finger is going to attach to this far left side of the trapezoid. So step 3, I call it an optional step, but you're going to draw some like little guides, some little dots here. And if you want to be real technical about it, you can get a ruler. I rarely ever do this, but your fingers don't go straight down vertically. They kind of jot out, they point out from where the sides of the fingers are. So we're going not vertically straight up, we're going out. We're going to kind of follow that trajectory, if you will, and we're just going to make some boxes. So we're going to make boxes for the fingers, and then we'll fix it later. So obviously that's kind of a fat finger there. The pinky obviously needs to attach to the end of the hand here. Now the middle finger though, the middle finger can go higher, and it can be like more like vertical with this point down here at the bottom. You don't have to, it doesn't matter. We're going to erase a lot of these lines. Try to keep that one as straight as it can be, because it's, you know, it's the middle finger. This is like really fat, so we're going to definitely for sure fix that. And then we've got the ring finger here, which is going to be about the same height as the first finger you can see here. And it's definitely going to be bigger than the pinky, but shorter than the middle finger. So that might be actually a little bit short. Doesn't matter. We're going to erase this. You can see my guides here were pretty jacked up. Doesn't matter. We've got a general, place to start from. So this is step 4. So we did step 1, which is the inside trapezoid. Step 2, which is the depth, the 3D shape. Step 3 was getting your guides in here. Step 4 was composing your fingers. Now, you can move on to the thumb if you want. You can go down to the thumb and then you can come back and erase all of the lines together. But as I've been doing this more often, I like to go ahead and just start erasing some of these lines. I would leave these down here because they're going to really help you where the wrist and stuff goes. And what we're going to do is round off these edges, so you can essentially erase this entire top line of the trapezoid. But you can see how that was really helpful for like figuring out where the fingers were supposed to go. We're going to start rounding out these sections where the fingers connect. Now, you can see that there's some issue here with how close the hangs are. So if they are close like that, let's say that this finger is wider, this finger's wider, and this one's closer. So that's okay. Just gracefully like figure out and re-sketch in where that groove is going to be. Now, we're going to clean it up later. This one looks like it's a little bit too close. So again, we'll just kind of like redraw that angle and fill it back in here. You're sketching, you know what I'm saying? You're sketching. You're not making anything super perfect. See, this eraser sucks. Gotta get the big boy in here. Oop. Get the big boy in here. You're just sketching. You're not trying to make anything perfect because we're gonna erase a lot of these lines again and again and again. So we got some issues with the bottoms of the fingers here. And of course we got some issues here with the first finger. We're gonna make it a little bit thinner. Okay, so here we are. We still got the middle finger kind of like the fattest. It is kind of the fattest just because of the joint here. Yeah, so if I lay it flat, you can see that it kind of like pokes out, and we're gonna draw that in later. So don't worry too much about that. Let's go ahead and add the thumb. So what I'd like you to remember for the thumb is sharp, curve, and I know it's not gonna stay that way. Some people you start from the bottom. I'll start from the bottom here so you can see it, but I usually like to start up here where this dot is, and I drew my trapezoid a little too short. In the guide I explained that you can do it here or you can do it down here, so I'll do it just above. So here's the straight line. Now we're going to curve that line, so we've got sharp and then we've got a curve here. Okay, then we're going to do sharp again. Okay, so obviously this is not sharp. This area of your thumb is not sharp, obviously, but we're going to fix it later. And then so we've got sharp, curve, sharp again, and then we're going to curve this in to loop. Okay, so we're going to loop it. Now obviously this is like, that'd be a really sharp loop, and we're just kind of drawing a more vintagey looking hand, so it's not going to be perfect already, so we may come down. It's going to be a kind of a small hand, you know what I'm saying? So, and you could even, like, if you don't like that, you can just erase the top part of this and really keep curving it out. Do it a little bit more square. So don't get upset if you can't really figure out the thumb. That's like the hardest thing ever to figure out. So then here we are. You can see how I started these guides here. There's no way that the wrist would start right here where the bottom of this is, so we'll start curving this down. And we've got a hand that's starting to form. Yeah, you guys see that? It's just like actually a hand starting to form. It's a little cartoony. That's okay. We can start filling in the different accent points of the hand. So we've got the nails. We've got these little lines here. We've got some like fatter parts of the hand that we can start filling in and then create some shade. So you don't really need this anymore. If you're really beginning, I would leave this line down here until everything else is good to go, because you might want to redraw your wrist angle a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start getting some nails in here, because we got, you know, fingers have nails obviously. Now nails are some of the hardest things to figure out depending on the pose that you're gonna make. So because sometimes not all of the nail is seen, and depending on how your hand is sitting, sometimes the nail is only half shown, and sometimes it's 3/4 shown, and sometimes it's fully shown. This is going to be the easiest one because it's fully shown, and I'm also like cutting quite a bit of corners here because these fingers are kind of small. Like, look at that, pinky's really small. Don't worry about the thumb yet. Let's do this. So we're gonna erase the tops. So what we're gonna do is start curving these guys out. But this is how it is. Like, you know, that's already too square. So we gotta erase that. Shablank. All right, so let's erase some of these. A lot of this is gonna be trial and error. Now, don't connect the nail all the way to the top of the finger, because if you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not. Unless you have long nails, there's parts of the finger that stick out just atop the nail. So if you do it too close to the top of this thing, like this, if you did it like that, you kind of start to have like a website icon deal going on, versus like if you leave some space up here that we can like shade beside, you have like a much more natural nail look. Now these nails are going to look pretty rough because I'm doing this sort of fast for you, and I already did the guide with a sketch I did previously today. This is getting rough, but we're going to do our best. This hand is like jank. Look at this, like super heavy up here. All right, so let's work on the thumb for just a second. So if I put my thumb like this and I can see that it curves out like that, then obviously this is like shot. There's no reason to do that. We only put that in there so that we could figure out how to do where the thumb goes. So what we'll do is we'll keep rounding this out, yeah, and then we'll kind of like fix this guy right here. So that's kind of a long thumb. It's okay. All right, so you can see where the nails, you can't see all of the nail. You can only see like part of it up here where I'm pointing to. Oh, I'm in the light, you can't see it. So you can only see a little bit. You can't see the full nail. Like if I did this, that'd be that there, you can see the whole nail. But if I'm turned like this, no position, so you're not gonna go whoop for a whole nail. You're just gonna start kind of like out like this, and you're gonna loop it around, loop and pull, and your shoe's looking good. But we can continue to work and tweak on it, and kind of like, let's do it kind of like this. And you can see I'm starting to round it out, and it's going to start looking more like a hand. Now, don't be afraid to throw more lines in here, because, like I said, this is a sketch. Like, this is not going to be perfect, and maybe you're wanting to digitize it, and that's cool. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. So let's add some accent points on here, and then we'll start adding some shading. So we've got like where the joints connect here. I want to say like the joints connect about right there. On the middle finger, it's going to be just above. It's not going to be completely perfect there. We got this one, and then the pinky. We got this little one right here. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there are these like weird curve lines because your hand is kind of webbed a little bit. Now we could like add some webbing in the back, but if you do that, you're gonna start building Spider-Man, so we're not gonna do that. There's these curves that kind of jot out, so I like adding just a little bit of kind of depth to the insides of where the hands are, right? And so if I'm laying my hand down like this, you can see on the camera, at least from what I'm looking at right now, shade, lots of shade, and then tons of shade here. So that's what we're gonna kind of create, is some shade here along the side, some shade here inside a little bit, maybe a little bit more, some cross stitching there, and definitely some shade up here. And then what we're gonna do is start adding some like cross hatchy looking shade here along the side. So you can see it's starting to come together. We got some depth issues with the I think this finger is actually pretty good, these two, and the thumb is actually not that bad. It's a little fat, but I think that this finger for sure is way too big. So we have options. We can make this one a little bit bigger. We can make this guy, we can fix the nail in here a little bit bigger, and we can round this out and make that a little bit better. Okay. Alright, we're gonna round this guy out. Now, so another thing that I like to do, it's not super prominent in the guide unless you go to the last page, is that you can start adding some like kind of wiggles to the, I call them wiggles, some curves to the fingers to kind of give them some depth, because you have, like, if you were, you can see them more prominently, they're curved here, the joints of your fingers, and even though they're not super prominent when they're flat like this, the finger still has curve to it. So we can erase some of these really dark lines and have them kind of come in like this to give it like a little bit of depth. And like there's a lot of jank going on up here with some dark lines. I don't know why I drew so many lines there. Now, and there's a fleshy part right here that kind of connects. I like to add a little bit of curve right there. Okay, and then here's where the thumb comes in, so there's some shade there. And we're gonna come in and shade in here. And then there's a bunch of shade down here, especially right here where you're, whatever that is. You can see the shadow very, very much on the camera here. Super hardcore shadow. Okay, there's a bunch of kids right outside my window. And now what I'm gonna do is add some shadow to the sides of the fingers here because of where light is falling. So light's coming this way, and obviously you're not looking at it with me as like the window's here and the hand's here, but the way that I'm looking at it, top down, there's a bunch of shadow on the sides. And so when you start adding that kind of shadow, it really helps create depth for the finger. So I've already got quite a bit there, and I already figured out that's what I was going to do. So I'm adding kind of to the top right and down of the finger, so just above and down, depending on where your hand is sitting. And then if it's laying flat like that, you can really start adding a ton of shadow on the right. And then yeah, so we can start kind of erasing these really harsh edges. And this one's kind of weird, it's like kind of comes in and out, so we're gonna do that and like create a little bit of sketch there. So I like that. You kind of play with it to get some depth in here. And then we're a little bit we're a little bit too heavy on this side. Alright, well, my battery died, so that's what you get when you try to shoot the whole thing in 4K. But anyway, so I went ahead and like kind of refined up the sketch a little bit, so you can see that, you know, we've got a pretty nice freehand open position for, you know, kind of a vintage sketch. And just to really quickly show you, because I don't want to keep you, really show you how to utilize this shape in a different pose. I've got this really nice kind of classic magazine here, and you can see that the hand here, if I were to draw over this, I'm not, because this is very old and very nice. There is a trapezoid here, and then what I'm going to draw right here is kind of this trapezoid looking thing here, which is very similar to this pose that I did. And you can, if I were to kind of over exaggerate where the trapezoid is, or the triangle or whatever, so you can see that right there. Let's kind of use that as a guide. I'll just have it up here out of the way. I might bring this one over just to help me out. So as you can see here, I'm going to just point out really quick, like the way that her hand is, whoever drew this obviously is a master, but there's no way that, I mean, your fingers would have to be so long to see. I can't even do that position here, but I'm going to try my best to kind of draw this little arch here. So, I mean, this is like a really, really, really rough version of this, but you can see how like that. And so, I mean, if I were to continue filling this out, you know, I could maybe get it close to this, but just because of how the thumb is, it'd be so hard to like try to demonstrate with, yeah, I don't know. It would just be I would have to really play with that. But anyway, the point of that was to really show you that I did a trapezoid this way, and then I did a trapezoid if I over exaggerate it. There's the trapezoid. All I did was just change the direction and kind of start with where the hand would go. So that's all I was trying to say. And as you, one note about, especially about this or with this, is when you're holding your hand like that, like you can see because of the light, it's light, and then look how red and dark all the inside in. So when you're drawing your fingers, you really want to shade these in. So for example, here, the farther back we go, we'd want to like shade the outside of this or the inside of this to create the depth, right? So anyway, so that was pretty much it. I hope you found that helpful. I don't want to keep you too long. I know that video was long, but yeah, just find out what you like, keep looking at your hand, keep erasing, keep redrawing, and you're gonna do it. So like, share, do the things, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.